Well, welcome back to the Zachary Reed Podcast. Thought I would do an episode today on what I'm calling presence-driven planning, or how to set SMART goals effectively. And I'm really excited about this. I just got done yesterday teaching this live with a group of spiritual leaders at my church, and it was absolutely amazing. And I can promise you this: if you buckle in with me and stay locked in for however long this episode ends up being, I believe that it will help you substantially take more territory this year as you steward all of the things that God's asking you to do in this season. And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to walk you through how you can utilize AI and ChatGPT to really flesh out your goals and help coach you through the process of setting effective goals. It's literally like having a one-on-one productivity coach working with you every step of the way to help you get crystal clear on goal setting. So let's dive in. So before we dive in, I have to set a ground rule. And that is, this is not going to be a video on productivity. I believe productivity is your responsibility. Productivity is a direct result of the amount of action or effort that you choose to put in on any given task, project, goal, whatever it may be. So productivity is on you, and it's directed by the amount of effort that you put into it. What this is going to be is this is going to be a video that teaches you how to set effective goals. Because here's what I've learned over the years of working with leaders. Most people have incredible vision, great-hearted intention, and a lot of incredible vision for what they want to accomplish. But when it comes to actually writing out and making it clear what it is that they want to do, they really struggle with setting effective goals, and it leads to burnout. It leads to not accomplishing the goals, and it can lead to a very scattered work environment. And so I want to walk you through a framework today and tell you what makes an effective goal, but also why most people fail at setting goals. Because I believe goals are stewardship plans. God's going to give you vision. He's giving you a calling. He's giving you assignments. And goals, the way that I see it, is that they're tools in stewarding and accomplishing everything that God has put in your hand. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Because I don't know about you, but I want to be in alignment with what it says in the Bible in Luke 16:10, where it says, "Whoever is faithful in very little will also be faithful in much." And so I really have this strong passion and honestly, kind of like a hate towards most goal setting frameworks, because most people out there are going to tell you that you should aim for the moon, that you should aim for all of these vast, big things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but for the average person just trying to get some things accomplished throughout the year, that's the wrong framework and it's the wrong mindset. Because as Christians, the kingdom of God is opposite of what the world standard is. And so if the world is saying to be your best self, to follow your heart and your desire on things, then you're already in the wrong mindset to be setting effective goals of what you should be tackling this year. So I believe all of this starts with the presence of God. You have to get super clear with God on what it is that He wants you to steward this year. Write out those things. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through a framework of how to make it what we call SMART, so that you can be super clear, super specific on what it is that you want to accomplish. And this is all biblical. This is based on what we read in the Bible in Habakkuk 2:2. It says, "Write the vision, make it plain on tablets." And then most people forget to read this part, but it says, so he may run who reads it. So this is super important, because as leaders, we should be building a team. We should be having people that we're raising up in leadership. How can they effectively run and faithfully steward all of the vision that God's given you for your team, for your department, for your company, if they don't have a clearly written vision of what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish? And so that's what we're going to be working through today. I want this to be the lens in which you're looking at this entire goal setting process. And I want to challenge you to really push in And just think about, like, how have you normally set goals? Have you sat down and just wrote out a list of all of the things that you think sound good that you want to accomplish this year? Or have you really taken time to get away with God and get super clear and specific and hear the voice of God over what he's asking you to do in a year? And then that's all you're doing. I know so many people, and I've been guilty of this myself, where I enter into a new year and I have this vast list of all of these goals that I want to accomplish. But let me tell you this: why would it be worth losing a bunch of weight or making a bunch of money or accomplishing a bunch of things if at the end of that you haven't pleased the Lord and you're not experiencing the outpouring of favor on what it is that you've actually done, because God wasn't with you in it to begin with? See, a lot of people will make a plan and then ask God to be a part of it instead of slowing down from the beginning and asking God for the vision and the blueprints. See, most goals are not failing because people are lazy. They fail because people are unclear of the direction that they need to run. You're not going to be able to run effectively if you don't have a detailed goal of what you're actually trying to accomplish. If you don't set the winning goalpost for your team on what success looks like, you're going to fail and it's not going to work. And so God is a God of details. He loves the specific details, architectural details of the things that he asks us to do. This is all throughout the word of God. From Noah building the ark, God gave them exact dimensions of how things needed to look. With Moses, he gave him the exact details of what the temple needs to look like in the Ark of the Covenant. And God gives detailed instructions to Joseph when there was a famine coming and he was able to save the whole world through the blueprint that God gave him, because God is a God of details. And in this entire process, and the lens that I want you to see it through, is through assigning honor and heaven's value to the things that God is asking you to steward. And that's the weight associated with the assignments God gives us. You have to have a fear of the Lord in stewarding the goals that he's asked you to steward. And so I want to go through what I'm calling the 7 root causes of failing when it comes to goals. And the first one is vague vision. These are goals like, I want to grow, I want to be better, I want to get healthier. These lack specific details. And how are you going to know what the win looks like if your goal is, I want to be healthier? Well, are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to go to the gym more often? Is this about changing up your diet? Like, what does that mean when you say, I want to get healthier? So vague goals is the number one reason why people fail at goals, because they didn't get specific. Here's a leadership reality that I want to share with you. Vagueness can feel spiritual. It can feel spiritual to have this lofty goal that seems ethereal, but the reality is that that is underdeveloped vision. And so I would challenge you as a leader, if you feel like you have this beautiful goal, but it's so simple that like no one can understand what the win is in that or how to actually make that happen, that's poor leadership on your part. And it's your responsibility to define, not just for yourself, but for your teams and those around you, how to actually win at the goal that you've set. And so vision should clearly articulate operational clarity, execution. It should include execution language. It should include structure and actionable steps so that when you're reading it, you know how to run. The second reason why most goals fail is misaligned motivation, or what I would say is focus. These are goals that are driven by comparison of others, pressure to maybe impress a leader that's above you, that's fear of man, that you're concerned that you're going to disappoint a leader if you don't accomplish this thing. And these are goals that you birth in the flesh that you almost have this guilt for. And I want to be clear, there's a big difference between feeling guilty on something and feeling conviction on something. And so these are goals that sound good, but are actually not saturated in what God told you to do whatsoever. So you have to be clear on the motivation and the focus of like, what am I doing this year? Does it make sense for me to be accomplishing this goal right now? And the third reason is overcommitment. If your day to day is putting out multiple fires from your team, for yourself, then you've done a really poor job of establishing clear goals that you're working towards. So, too many goals means no goals are actually getting accomplished, right? When everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. And so I love this scripture in Luke 14:28 that says, which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost? See, you will overcommit on goals if you don't sit down and evaluate the cost and the impact of those decisions. And you will either end up having to slow down in the future or completely desert your goal and your plan altogether because you didn't take the time on the front end to clearly count the cost. And so that's bad leadership. Good leadership is knowing the timing of when things should be done. Good leadership is knowing the cost that's going to go into making something happen and knowing that you and your team are fully capable of making it happen. And so you're ultimately held responsible for these goals that you're setting out. And so if it's difficult for your team to understand, if it's overcomplicated, if you're overcommitting on something, that rises and falls on you as the leader. And so the fourth thing is no measurement. So I want you to imagine that you're playing on a soccer field and both teams are just running. No one's winning. There's no goals happening. Everyone's just running around in mass chaos around the field. They have no idea what declares a win, how they do it, or anything like that. That is the representation of what it looks like when you don't have a goal that has a clear measurement to it. If you don't know how you're winning, you'll always feel like you're losing. And so you have to clearly know from the beginning what's the win, what's the goal. You can't effectively empower other leaders or other people to run and try to win with you in your goal if you can't tell them what the win or the goal clearly is. So this is one of the top reasons why most goals fail, or most teams or departments fail to accomplish what they're trying to do. And it all comes down to not having a clear measurement. You have to be able to define what the win looks like so everyone can work backwards from that point and know exactly what they need to accomplish. The fifth reason is that there's no clear ownership or accountability. Have you ever been in a meeting where every single time you meet, let's say you have like a weekly team meeting or a bi-weekly team meeting or even just a monthly team meeting, and every time you're meeting, you keep circling back to the same thing over and over and over again. And it's just been on this back burner of things that need to get accomplished, but it never happens because there's no clear ownership or accountability associated with that goal. We have to be able to clearly identify who's taking ownership of this, okay? And even further than that, if there are multiple owners over something, is also not effective. So you have one clear leader. You can still have a team of people helping you accomplish the goal, but there should be one clear leader who is held accountable to the goal. Number 6 is no follow-up or consistent review cycle. I see this all the time. You have to be able to inspect what you expect. And so if you don't have some kind of review process in your day or in your week or quarter or year, then you're going to risk not being able to accomplish everything that God's told you to do. And so this is where the systems part of goal setting becomes really valuable. So you have to do whatever you need to do to get your goals in front of you on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. There was a study done that shows that most people fail at goal setting because they don't keep the goals in front of them on a daily basis. And so an easy, practical way that you can go about fixing that for yourself is put it in your calendar. Time block off, maybe some time at the end of the day, every day, where you're looking at what did I accomplish today? What do I need to do tomorrow? Setting yourself up for success for moving into the next day. But being intentional about blocking out time, setting a reminder, looking at it fresh when you first come into the office every day. Look at your goals and make sure that there's nothing that needs to be adjusted in order to accomplish those things. And the last thing, the number 7 reason why most goals fail is not having a clear action plan. So, a couple of months ago, I decided that I wanted to go on a prayer retreat with the Lord. I went to an area that had this amazing, like outdoor area where you could go on a hike. And I had the bright idea, like, I'm going to go on a hike. It's going to be awesome. Well, first of all, I hadn't been on a hike in a really, really long time. I misread the information on the app that showed me where the hiking trail was. And I thought that the distance it was saying in the app was the full round trip distance of the hike. And so I didn't realize that when I got to the end of the first leg, that had to be repeated again going back. So it was double the amount of time that I thought it was going to take. Now, if I would have slowed down, effectively read the plan, and saw the total distance of what this hike was going to take, I would have brought more supplies. I would have brought electrolytes, another bottle of water, and a little bit more than just the handful of beef jerky that I had in my backpack. And so this hike ended up taking double the amount of time, double the amount of energy and effort. And by the time I got back to the truck, I had finished the hike, but I was exhausted. It was double the amount of everything I thought it was going to take to do. And if I would have just had a clear action plan, all this would have been fixed from the beginning. So a great goal has to have a clear action plan to know exactly the steps that go into accomplishing it and making it happen. You have to think about things like, what are the measurables that go into it? Like being able to see the end in sight and working backwards and thinking about all of the milestones that are going to come at a high level in between the start and finish line post. So you can have an effective action plan. You can clearly empower other people. And then you know that you can accomplish everything that God's asked you to do. So to kind of wrap up this section, I believe goals are stewardship plans. They help you stay focused, and God celebrates your faithfulness when you steward and be obedient to the things that He's asked you to do. And so we're all looking for what it says in Matthew 25, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over little, so I will set you over much. That's the heart posture behind goal setting. These are the reasons why most people fail at goal setting. And so now what I want to do is I want to walk you through the SMART goal framework so you can understand what effective goal strategy looks like so you can set yourself up for success. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is where we get into the SMART goal setting framework. And so just as a high level overview, SMART goals is a stewardship system. Okay, so this is going to help you translate your vision into action. It's going to help you get super clear on what your responsibility is, and it's going to allow you to faithfully steward what God has placed in your hands. It's a system that's going to help you answer these questions. What am I actually responsible for? What does faithfulness look like in this season? What does success look like clearly and practically? And what needs to happen next? Not someday, but right now. What needs to happen today, tomorrow, and the next day so that you can encounter success in your goals? So with this whole thing, I don't want you to get hung up in the details of the SMART framework. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just designed to help you get really clear on what it is that you're wanting to accomplish. And so every letter of SMART is an acronym that's broken down. So I want to kind of walk you through the specifics of this. So S of SMART stands for specific. So this is bringing clarity to what your goal is and assigning honor and the value associated to the assignment. If people can't repeat your goal, it can't be supported and it's not specific enough. Okay. If people can't execute and run based on reading the goal, then it's not built effectively. And so that's the S in SMART is we got to get super specific and detailed into what it is that we're wanting to accomplish. The second part of SMART is M, which stands for measurable. So measurement is awesome because it's going to give you the ability to have really productive feedback conversations with you and your team along the journey of getting to the finish line, because there are clear expectations set that this is what success looks like in this goal. And so These are your indicators of success. This is what's going to give your team the relief and the knowing that this is how they win. And so your team's going to need to know this to stay on track. And if they don't, they're always going to feel behind. And this is on you as a leader. It's your responsibility. Everything rises and falls on leadership. It's your responsibility to effectively set the right measurements and the right tone for the goals that you and your team are accomplishing. And the next part is A, which stands for achievable. I love what it says in Psalms 127, verse 1, that says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. You, as the leader, need to be able to discern with the Lord and evaluate if whatever it is that you're putting together as a goal is the exact priority of the season. What components of this do you need to be responsible for? Do others need to be responsible for? Is there collaboration that's needed between multiple departments or organizations? And honestly, do you even have the bandwidth to accomplish this in this season? There's nothing worse than putting everyone's foot to the fire to try to make something happen, but it's the wrong season. It's not the right timing. There's a whole lot of other vision that you're stewarding. And so this comes back to you as a leader. You have to have discernment with the Lord of knowing, is this achievable in this season of life? And then being able to effectively bring your team along the journey of accomplishing that. And so the next part is R, which stands for relevant. And achievable and relevant kind of mash together in a beautiful way, but they're distinctly different. And so not every good thing or idea is a God thing for this particular season, right? Like we read this in Ecclesiastes, it says, for everything there is a time and a season. And so is this goal in alignment with your team's priorities, with your team's objectives, with your individual vision plan of what God's given you for this year? You have to know if the goal is relevant to the main objectives and priorities that you're running after in this season. I love in the New Testament, I believe Paul says this a couple of times, but he says, I can do anything, but not everything is profitable. And I love this verse because it's so much more than, like, most people hear the word profitable, they're thinking money, profit, and it has got nothing to do with that. He's saying we can do all things through Christ. We could do all of these goals. We can accomplish all of this vision because we have the victory of Jesus. We have him on our side to make it happen. But he's saying, but not everything is profitable. So there's a time and a season for everything. And we have to know if this goal that we're setting is relevant to the time and the season that we're running in. And so the last thing is T, stands for time bound. And so this is all about deadlines. Like, when does the goal need to be accomplished? If you're just aimlessly wandering around, shooting action in every different direction, it's going to lead to exhaustion. We have to be diligent in our work, in our projects, in our goals. And all of that comes down to knowing when the thing needs to be done. And this is super crucial in goal setting because the end point is where you're trying to go. You have to be able to build a plan working backwards. And if you don't know when the thing is due, you're not going to be able to set an accurate action plan that is going to bring your team or you into unity with actually accomplishing the thing. And so you have to be able to have something time-oriented built into your goals. And so that's the whole SMART framework. And so again, I hope that you hear that, like, assignments and goals, like, they're sacred. There's a beautiful clarity behind knowing exactly what God's asked you to do and being able to write it out clearly so that you can empower other people to help you accomplish those goals. I love what it says in Colossians when it says, whatever you do, work heartily unto the Lord. All of our work is worship unto the Lord. So it doesn't matter if we're stewarding something small, medium, or large. It's all considered worship unto God. And this framework is going to help you be faithful in everything that God has put in your hands. So the next thing I want to walk you through is examples of a vague goal and then what it looks like in a SMART goal format, so you can start to see what this really looks like. And I hope that it helps you get super clear on what it is that you're wanting to do this year. Okay, so we've talked about why goals typically fail. We've talked about the SMART goal framework for setting effective goals. Now I want to give you an example of one of my own personal goals for this year. And I'm going to start off by telling you what the vague goal initial vision looked like, and then now what it has turned into. So you can have an example of what this looks like. And so at the end of last year, Jazz and I sat down and we did what we called the State of the Union for our family. We wanted to sit down, we wanted to pray. We spent a couple of days just immersing ourselves in planning for 2026. And through that process, we came up with a whole list of things that we felt like the Lord was asking our family to steward in this next season. And so the first one that I wrote out was I wanted to establish a family trust. And so when you first hear that, you're like, okay, like, that's great, but, like, what does that mean? What does it look like? And so as I went through this process of making it smart, it went from being super vague to extreme detail. Part of the detail that you add to these SMART goals is, like, the heart behind what are you actually trying to accomplish? Because if you just hear, "I'm gonna establish a family trust," and then as I read off the full example of what it turned into, you're gonna notice there's like a heart change. There's like direction added, and it's way more specific. So I went from establishing a family trust to by September 30th, 2026, I will work with an estate planning attorney to create, sign, and fund a legal, valid family trust so that our family assets are protected and clearly stewarded for the next generation. Now, there's so much more detail by reading off that statement that than just saying establishing a family trust, right? And so now I have a clear plan. It has a deadline by September 30th, and it's got exact instructions of what needs to happen to make that goal possible. So that's just an example of how to do this. I've actually put an entire resource together. So here we are at the end. I want to tell you about this amazing tool I put together to help you go through this process and write it out effectively so that you can accomplish more, your teams can accomplish more, and you can run super fast in 2026 this year into everything that you're stewarding. So, what I did is I built using AI a custom GPT called the SMART Goal Coach. And what this GPT does is it coaches you in a one on one session in setting an effective goal. So you can give it anything and it's going to help you nail down to the exact detail and specification exactly what you want to accomplish. And in fact, the example I gave you earlier is an example that I used and was refined with this ChatGPT AI. And so I want to offer this to you as a resource. It's available on my website for like a few bucks. And here's the thing that I want to share with you. If you were to hire a personal productivity coach, you'd be spending hundreds of dollars to get super clear on what it is that you want to accomplish, putting a whole action plan together, and you'd be spending a lot of time and money doing that. And so what I've done is I've taken all of my years of experience of using goal setting frameworks and I've put it into this GPT to help you unpack and get down to the exact detail of what you're trying to accomplish. And you can download it right now on my website for a few bucks. And you can use it every single day. You can set up 1,000,000 goals if you want. You can set up 5 goals if you want. And so I want you to check out this resource. You can go to zacharyreed.com and it's going to be available right there on the homepage. And this tool is incredible. All of my goals that I'm working on this year were refined through this process. I just released this GPT tool in a classroom setting yesterday with some students I was teaching. Everyone was losing it because it was so awesome. And it helps remove all of the intensity behind this whole SMART goal system. It helps you set goals more easy and more effective because you can sit there on your phone and do it, and it'll help you get crystal clear on what you're trying to do. And so I hope that you found this episode helpful. This is the strategy that I'm using going into this year with my goals, and it's helping tons of other leaders that I've coached through this process to set strong goals for them as well. And so I hope that it helps you. And I would love for you to just like leave a comment, like this video, share it with a friend who needs help setting goals, and let me know in the comments what you are accomplishing this year. I'd love to read your goals, and especially if you download the SMART Goal Coach GPT, I'd love to see what kind of goals it helps you generate. And let's accomplish more this year. And I'll catch you in the next episode.